My guest this week is Dave Holmes. Dave is a columnist and editor-at-large for Esquire, as well as being a contributor to the Los Angeles Times, Vulture, Playboy, Decider, and Runner's World. He's a satellite radio personality, a host for shows for CBS, MTV, Bravo, E!, FX, Comedy Central, and the author of the memoir, Party of One. Of his recent limited-run podcast, Who Killed the Video Star? The Story of MTV, which was a former #1 on the Apple Podcast charts, NPR said, "The great and good Dave Holmes just understands pop culture in a way that very few people do." And it gives me great pleasure to welcome to Revolutions Per Movie, Dave Holmes.
Hello, Chris. How are you?
I'm great. I want to thank you, first of all. Your first choice had already been taken, and you told me to burn the episode. And I was really close to doing that, but I appreciate you pivoting to your second choice, which is pretty much your first choice, Valley Girl. I appreciate your ability to maneuver through that painful moment.
You know, it was difficult, but I did some soul searching, and as much as I love Starstruck, I do love it, but I a little bit chose it because I was just didn't occur to me that Valley Girl would not have been chosen this many episodes in.
There's some real blind spots to this show. Like, people come in and they're like, "Can I talk about the Sun City Girls VHS tape?" And I'm like, "Sure." But meanwhile, there's all these classics kind of sitting there. And this is one of them. But I wanted to ask, there's so many things leading into this film about your life, especially early in your life. I loved in your book, capturing things that are kind of missing nowadays, like the smoking section idea, the candy store, things where you could kind of be with your peers or the people you've, found to discuss that Simon Le Bon, symbols and videos and trying to decipher things. Even before you found the candy store with your crew, were you deciphering like clues and album covers and songs?
Oh, definitely. I mean, there was so much to get lost in, back when there was a huge, 12-inch square thing to hold and sometimes open and sometimes a lyric sheet to pour over. Yeah. I mean, those were clues that led you to whatever world music came from.
Right.
And then, certainly when MTV started, it was a whole other dimension of like design and fashion and hair and what just transmissions from an alternate universe that I could not wait to try and translate.
Yeah, all the parents today who complain about their kids being on their phone, I could stare at an album cover like forever.
Absolutely.
And then I spent all my time watching MTV and Night Flight and poring over magazines. But it's funny. It's like, the album cover didn't move, but it might as well have been TikTok for all I was concerned, because
absolutely,
I assumed every single piece on the cover was talking about the music or the people, not realizing often that the people who made the cover weren't even friends of the band. They were just hired guns. But I love that my soft young brain was just squishing that all together.
And it was just like, it was this thing that you had, and it didn't turn into something else when you were finished reading it. It would still be that thing.
Right.
And episodes of Night Flight and music videos and whatever, I would watch over and over and over again, not even really trying to get anything new, but just sort of trying to get closer to it or whatever. I was hyper focused on all of that stuff. By the way, are you in on Night Flight Plus?
Oh, absolutely.
Of course you are.
Yeah, and it's great. My wife is from Scotland, so she missed out on all of it. So for her, she's seen like a Crocus video next to a Cabaret Voltaire video, and being like, what's a connection?
Revisiting those old episodes. Pat Prescott is her name, and she's the VO person on
great.
all of it, and she's fantastic. But she has like one tone, like in 1978, Bob Marley died of cancer. And I'm just like, okay.
It's so
Or,
true.
this video is about the horror of domestic abuse. Like,
Yeah.
okay.
And I
Okay.
remember when Radio 1990 came on, I remember being kind of a little bummed because, she's talking to like Lou Reed, and I wasn't into Lou Reed yet. That was like an old man
Mhm.
taking up space at that time.
Yeah.
But now
Yeah.
it's really
Yeah.
great to revisit and realize who Lisa Robertson was and all this stuff, and kind of how daring so much of it was, and outside
It's
of
wild.
the mainstream. The other thing
Yeah.
that you really capture well in the book is, riding your bike to get an album, getting a Simple Minds record, and picking up the first Smith single, biking home, running into a friend, and having them be like, "This stuff looks weird," and you being like, "Yeah, it is weird. I'm weird. I'm
Yeah.
weird."
Yeah.
I remember bands like Devo. I was picked on so much for liking Devo for so long as a little kid, and eventually it became like a chip on my shoulder. I was like, "Yeah, I'm Devo. So what? Like, I'm
Mhm.
weird. I'm sorry you don't get it." But I love that music could often just like flip the switch.
Totally. Totally. I remember like there was in like 7th grade, there was this kid, Jeff, in our class who was like a really good football player. And it was a very small school, very small all boys school. And I really had no, like, our worlds didn't intersect in any way. But we were in the locker room getting our, like, whatever, clothes back on after PE, and I had a jacket that had some, like, buttons on it, like, probably the English beat and,
Right.
whatever. And he, like, saw the buttons and he was like, "You're a punk rocker." And I was like,
Totally.
"Yeah." And I completely wasn't, but it was like, "Oh, okay, I guess, like, I kind like, just the idea that I might have some identity at all was so exciting,
Yeah.
And that music, or, like, appreciating music could bring that to me was, like, yeah, that was huge. That
Yeah.
was huge.
And often it was just pure coincidence. You're just standing next to someone who does see those
Right.
badges, or is the only other person at the show who likes the show, right?
Yeah.
That all of a sudden you just start up a conversation, and
Yeah.
then all of a sudden, you're trading phone numbers, and they're, shoving albums into your arms that you've never heard of.
Yeah.
One of the artists you mentioned in the book, that you consider a great unsung hero, is Tommy Keene. And I was
Oh,
really
yeah.
touched that I just feel like he doesn't get enough acknowledgement. Speaking of someone who I just feel like could have been a way bigger influence than he was. He just was such a talent.
Yeah. But I think it's almost because he wasn't huge that he's as beloved as he is. I mean, people would have loved him no matter what, but
Right.
the idea that everyone who loved him had to find him,
Yes.
it was powerful. I want to show you something.
Please do.
I'm going to turn my little screen over here. Now, here are some things that I found. I don't know if
Oh,
in the
yeah.
middle you can see
Yep.
Tommy Keene's Strange Alliance promo poster.
Absolutely.
Um, and then in between, 2 pages from like a 1978 Billboard magazine, there are ads for the first B-52s album.
Yeah, Tommy. I got to tour with Tommy when we were doing Boston Spaceships with Robert Pollard, and
Yeah.
Robert Pollard would constantly be like, "That's Tommy Keene over there. Like, Tommy Keene is in my band." And I felt the same
Yeah.
way. And he really did try to go for it. It wasn't for any lack of not making a good looking video, or,
Mhm.
kind of, having like 80s production. He had the songs, but it is interesting that, it's just not everything lands, and
Right.
he was so humble about it not landing. I thought that was
Mhm.
fascinating.
Yeah. It's wild. And he heard so much in his life, like, "You should be bigger."
Yes.
And it's like, to hear that every day of your life has gotta kinda get, like, wear you down after a certain point.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
he never, I got to know him a little bit in real life, and he didn't strike me as someone who was unhappy or unsatisfied or whatever.
No.
I mean, certainly he could have had more success, but yeah, he never, he didn't express any, like, bitterness or anything like that. But that must be taxing after a while, having everybody tell you that, like, wow, something, you know, there's some flaw in the world that you're
Yeah.
not a, millionaire.
Yeah, I think yeah, he just seemed, wired into the reality of it. And also but, I mean, he was
Mhm.
such an a music obsessive of things
Yeah.
that didn't land, things that he loved, like, he saw Sparks so early, and he's like, "Yeah, they should have been, bigger than they were," and things like that. He just loved music, and I think he realized
Mhm.
that it just didn't happen. But it was sad. I'd seen him play with Matthew Sweet right before he passed away,
Same.
and it was
Me
just
too.
like I was like, I think Tommy Keene's gonna have a moment. I really feel like people are going to rediscover, these are going to be reissued and
Mhm.
but yeah, he was just such a sweetheart and such a
Yeah.
talent. But I was just really thrilled to see someone just put his name in a book. That meant a lot.
Oh, good. Yeah, I saw that tour also, and there were, we were interspersed through the crowd, the people who were there for Tommy.
Right.
This was at the Echo in LA, and I was just like, I'm sure I cried, but the thing that warmed my heart somehow the most was like still pegging those jeans,
Yes, totally.
you know, and it works. He looks great.
Yes, pegging the jeans and doing like an Echo and the Bunnymen B-side cover acoustically.
Yes.
It's like
Yeah.
that's what I mean. He's just like, I love music. He had the best stories too, about growing up and being like, and then Keith Moon handed the drum set to my brother off the stage, and you could never stump him. You'd be like, oh, did you ever see this or that? He was like, yeah, yeah, I saw this. And
Mhm.
the only other person I've met like that was Peter Buck, who just,
Yeah.
you're like, you saw what and when and how. But yeah, I really appreciated that.
Unreal.
I wanted to ask you about your path to becoming an MTV VJ because in the book, it almost seems like at one point you're going to like, I could sleep in rather than go down and do this
Oh, yeah.
thing, or should I call in sick? But once you're there, was it a low key affair? I know you kept kind of progressing through these different levels and tests that they were kind of giving you, but like, what
Mhm.
in your heart were you feeling? Were you like, this is unreal, or did it seem very real?
Oh, it seemed completely unreal. I yeah, I mean, so I got there on a Monday. I was living in New York already. Um, but yeah, I blew off work and I stood in line to audition because it was like an open call kind of a deal, but I don't think I understood the degree to which it would be televised.
Right.
I mean, I knew they would, get press out of it or whatever, but I didn't I don't think I knew quite that it was going to be like an on-air contest or whatever, but,
Yeah, that's
um,
amazing.
it's wild. The whole thing is so strange. Um, but it was kind of like almost more than anything, I really just wanted to see inside. I just wanted to, like, get through the doors and go inside.
Totally.
Yeah, because like, I didn't know how to do that. I didn't know anybody in that world, really. And yeah, it was whatever it was, 26, and I just I didn't know any other way to, like, just go in and see what it looked like, and then when I got in, what I was struck by was, like, everybody who worked there was around my age,
Okay.
and it seemed like, the big shots were, like, 29, you know,
Wow. Okay.
but everybody was young, and everybody was, like, it just seemed super happy and harmonious, and everyone was, like, into the job that they were doing, like, running around happily with headsets and clipboards.
Wow.
And, and I kinda just thought, like, I just wanna find my way in here. I never I really did not I didn't imagine that they would be like, "Oh, you're the guy that we should put on the air."
Sure.
But, but I thought, like, maybe I'll get a job as a writer. Maybe I'll get a job as, like, a production assistant or something. Because again, I didn't know how else to make that transition in my career. And, so I went and I whatever it was, like, read a cue card and answered a couple questions, and, there were a whole bunch of audition stations, and then it seemed it like now we would call it like a golden ticket to Hollywood, like on American Idol, but the guy I auditioned with, a guy named Joe Armenia, who was, like, in marketing, because, like, people from all different departments of MTV were
Sure.
coming down to chip in. Gave me like a piece of paper to go to another room and talk to other people, which it was like, I think this is a callback. And I did that, and then they were like, we'll call you by midnight on Tuesday. And so I blew off work the next day too, because I was like, I can't, how the fuck am I going to do anything
Right.
but think about
Right.
it? Right. And then that evening I had two roommates who were good friends of mine, and they were both away for work. And so I remember I got a bottle of red wine and a pizza and a stack of movies. And I was just like, and I sat there with the landline phone in my lap. And I was just like, that Tuesday evening, I was like, all right, I'm just gonna, if it's meant to happen, it'll happen.
Right.
And they called it like, and I wish I had saved this, but I remember I opened my like little like ThinkPad or whatever to journal and be like, okay, well, it's 11:55. This is not going to happen, but you know, whatever. It was a cool experience, and I got to see inside, and I now have something to visualize and maybe move toward. And like 11:57, they called to say that I'd made the top 10, and then it was just like a series of like winnowing down exercises and activities and challenges and whatever, getting through the next whatever it was 4 days, and the whole time I was like, I couldn't believe I was there. It was utterly surreal. I don't know how I didn't have a full bore panic attack on live television. I think probably because it was so surreal. But what I was thinking kind of throughout it was like, you know, there were a lot of like big personalities, and I was like, I'm not a big personality, but I love this. I love music, and I love music video, and I love this network, and I just want to be a part of it. And so my thought was just like, lose like in a way that allows you to get a job there.
Right. Sure.
And then I lost. But I kind of, I went to the rap party, and I got everybody's business card, and I was relentless about calling people and trying to set up meetings. And I just kind of, my feeling was like, this is an incredible opportunity. And it, as encouraging as everyone was being on the day, I was like, they'll forget about me in 10 minutes if I let them. So I cannot let them. And so I did not let them.
Uh-huh.
That was a long-winded answer, but it was, I just, it was utterly surreal, but I was like, I need to be a part of this in some way.
And then when did it kick in that you got to be part of it?
It was if the Wannabe VJ was in April,
mm-hmm.
and I think by like mid-May, it was clear that I was gonna be doing something on air there. Like that was insane. I recorded a couple of pilots,
Uh-huh.
and one of those got picked up, and then they gave me like a sort of probationary deal for the summer. And and I was just like over the moon. I could not believe what my life was like about to become. It was also, what this is wild. While I was filming one of these pilots, there was a show called MTV Live that was like a 90-minute live show, and all of the regular hosts were gone because the summer was about to begin. So they were like in Seaside Heights doing, their preliminary sort of taping and whatever, and they didn't have anyone to do the live show. And so one of the bigwigs, who was 29, called the set and were like, "Can you host the live show tomorrow?" And I was like, "Sure." I never hosted anything, much less a live anything, much less a 90-minute live anything. But like within 24 hours, they were just like, "Here, you host this show." And it was like, this is, and immediately I was like, "Oh, this is what I do. This is what I do. I have found what I do."
And was that the longest 90 minutes of your life up to that point, or did it fly by?
Shortest.
Okay.
Shortest.
Okay.
In the blink of an eye, it went by. And that remained true and remains true when I get to do live TV or events or whatever. It's like, there's so much happening that it's like this joyful blip.
Well, as a music obsessive coming into this MTV world, were you able to at all put any influence in terms of, hey, on 120 minutes, can we bring this band in, or can you throw this video in just for me? Or was that like, just like off limits? Like there's a whole nother department that deals with it. It's political, it's complicated.
Yeah. I got to once put on a video
Okay.
that I chose.
Had to
And it
ask.
was that first day. It was that first day.
Oh my God.
It was on that episode of MTV Live, and it was Jump Right In by The Urge featuring Nick Hexum of 311.
Okay.
They were playing a lot of 311 at the time, so it was an easy one. And that song was sort of, they were working it a little bit. It was sort of like a mid-level hit in 1998. The Urge were from St. Louis, which so am I, and so it was like, so I was able to kind of put, 3/4 of that video on during that show. But the rest of the time, yeah, there's a music department, and they're that is their own thing, and you kind of can't.
Right.
Yeah, there's no mixing.
Yeah, I remember when Jerry Casale of Devo came on, and he just was talking about like the video czar at MTV, and I'm like, what? There's a video czar? Like, he's like, yeah, we had to talk to censorship. They'd be like, you can have the donut or the French fry, but you can't have the donut and the French fry. But I'm sure there are certain bands that it's just like, you can do whatever you want and we'll play it, like it's just a moment. But yeah, that world of programming always seemed like a complete mystery. Like even the order of like, was that random at all in terms of like, okay, like this follows this follows this? I know that certain things had to be played a certain amount of time at a certain point, but like, was that somebody's job, do you think, to just be like, oh, and after this, we'll show this, and we need some of this?
Yeah, it definitely was. I mean, there were rotation tiers. There's like heavy rotation, medium rotation, light rotation. I'm assuming that's still the way it was when I got there. That was a list I used to go to the newsstand, pick up Billboard magazine, go to the video page, and look at what was added, what was in heavy,
video
what was
page of
light,
Billboard. There you go.
Yeah. What was the hip clip of the week? What was in the buzz bin, etc. Yeah, and so I'm sure that still existed on some level when I was there, but I'm sure that and it's all like a computer program and everything, but I'm sure somebody looks at it and it's like, okay, these are it's two new metal bands in a row, we got to throw some R&B in the middle there or something. Even on TRL, the order would be futzed with a little bit so that you didn't have like three of the same thing all in a row, right? You want variety.
When you were having to do interviews, was there a time that was just out of body? You couldn't believe you were talking to who you got to talk to?
Yeah, several. Michael Stipe being one. When I think it was New Adventures in Hi-Fi came out, they did a show at Bowery Ballroom with Patti Smith, and I got to talk to Michael Stipe, and I was like so out of my body. There were, we had worked on questions and a kind of a script and all that kind of thing. And then I a little bit went rogue. I had a question that I was like, that was real wordy and real, like, I thought insightful. And I didn't run it past anyone at all. I just it started coming out of my mouth. And like by word 3 of this 300-word question, I was like, oh, this doesn't make any sense at all. Actually, it's a bad question. And I can't even remember what it was. I've like blocked it out of my head so completely. But he was extremely gracious about it and just was sort of, just kind of changed the subject elegantly. And I was and I remain grateful for that. But and then after that, I was like, just stick to the fucking script, you idiot. I got to interview Joe Strummer, who was unbelievably friendly and cool, and like Liz Phair. Yeah, I mean, yeah. I did 120 minutes for a while, and I guess it would have been 98 or 99 at a time when like alternative was kind of having an identity crisis. So
Sure.
120 minutes would, like, I talked to Joe Strummer and Liz Phair for that, but also like Sean Mullins and Stained
Right.
and Days of the New and that kind of thing, because we were in the middle. But yeah, but the artists who meant a ton to me in the 80s and 90s, who I got to
Yeah.
sometimes talk to, it was crazy, crazy,
Well,
crazy.
as the king of the 300-word question,
Hmm.
I appreciate that you tried, because that's my
Well,
approach.
okay,
I
okay,
can't help it. I'm like, so
yeah.
the
Well, that has not been my experience so far. But yeah, no, God, I wish I could. No, I actually don't wish I could remember what it was, because I'd be mortified anew.
There's a chapter in your book on the men who ruined me,
Hmm.
and you have Huey Lewis,
Oh yeah,
Ted McGinley from Married with Children,
come on,
David Lee Roth, a surprising pick, but a great pick, Herb Tarlek from WKRP in Cincinnati,
can't help it.
and also Nicolas Cage and Valley Girl, what we're
Oh
going to talk
yeah,
about.
yeah.
So, when did you get to see the film? Did you see it in the theater on VHS? What was your experience?
It was definitely on VHS. Um, and my experience of it was that my older brothers had seen it, almost definitely, and and I, my, I saw ads for it in the paper, but I think it was rated R. I'm sure it was rated R.
Yes, it is. Yeah, in fact, Martha Coolidge, who directed the film, by contract, she had to show naked breasts 4 times in the film.
Wow.
And so she decided to basically, anytime there were naked breasts, she tried to put some drama in it or some heartache or some uncomfortableness. And she's
Uh-huh.
like, there you go. I did it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was one of the rules that they had in the film because it was so low budget.
Yeah. Wow, I never knew that. Yeah, I mean, had it been PG, there was no PG-13 yet, but if it had been
Right.
PG, I would have seen it in the theaters, 6 times. Um, but I remember seeing the ad in the paper, and it was, nobody knew who Nicolas Cage was. The girl in the poster in the newspaper ad is not the girl in the movie. Um, but what is part of it is like music by, and it's, all of these artists who some of whom I knew, most of whom I didn't. And so my experience was of it, or my idea of it was that it was as much a musical thing as uh, a story.
Yeah, and it was funny. I mean, I saw the trailer for it and I was able to track it down. Tell me if this seems right. It goes, Valley Girl. This is a story of a boy from Hollywood who never dreamed that the girl he'd want most was from down here. And it's a story of a girl from the valley who never dreamed that he'd even be seen with a boy from over here. This is a story of Randy and Julie, the way they come together, and the people who try to pull them apart. If you think she's confused, you should see her father. Julie's cool, Randy's hot. She's from the valley, he's not. Valley Girl.
Valley Girl. Well, I'm sure I've never seen the trailer.
It ends with that thing where uh, her boyfriend at the time goes, "Oh, bitchin', is this in 3D?" And he goes, "No,
No,
but
but
your
your
face
face
is."
is. Fuck
Yeah, so it's one of the few lines from the trailer. But yeah, I remember seeing it, and my first reaction was like, I was such a sensitive new wave punk kid
yeah. Hmm.
that I was like, this is a fake out. Like I was immediately hurt, like because I had friends, I mostly had female friends, most who I was like, oh, I wish they would date me, but because I
Sure.
was an awkward kid,
Yeah.
and they're all fawning over this punk rock film, and I'm like, he's not punk rock.
Yeah.
He's not punk rock. But
Yeah.
it was so desperate. And but the film is so amazing. It was so funny to see just what, as a little kid, was hurting me,
Yeah.
because the film is fantastic.
It's so sweet. And no, I mean, yeah, technically not punk except for, Manic Panic in the hair.
But
Um,
either was I. I mean, I
yeah,
like
of course
punk
not. Of
music,
course not. Yeah.
but like,
Yeah. Yeah. So at some point, I certainly, went to movies to go, pre Blockbuster, a movie rental place, and rented it. And, if it was a 48-hour rental, I watched it, 4 times. and went on to rent it again and again, and now own it on DVD or Blu-ray. I'm not sure what I have, but something like that. Now it's like our DVD player doesn't even work anymore, so I had to go and rent it again from Apple. We keep paying for the things that we own.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the film is, I mean, there were so many films that were teen driven in the 80s. This one just lands in a way more beautiful way than so much of the stuff we were given as kids in the 80s.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and it was because it was this sort of like 1983 new wave moment,
Right.
where there was this whole like, kids in California in Orange County could listen to this radio station that like operated that was like from a totally different continent, right? Like that had its own scene and its own hierarchy and its own stars and its own language, and bits of it filtered through to St. Louis via MTV, or older brothers. Both my brothers by this time would have been in college, so they would sometimes come home with like records that I would want to steal and tape. But yeah, it was this cool older kid universe that you could access through this movie. And now I live in the Valley, but we'll get there later.
Yeah, I was really curious about that, being where you were growing up and seeing a film. Did it seem like the Wild West watching it? Was this like something you were drawn to?
Yeah, I mean, it was California, so everybody who grows up in California is just, when you're in St. Louis, Missouri,
Right.
Anybody in California is just unbelievably cool.
Right.
Like it's just natural by virtue of their living there or growing up there or whatever. They get to exist in this world, and they get to have KROQ, and they're the music that they listen to at high school dances or whatever is just so much cooler than you could ever imagine. You can only get it via mixtapes from someone who has been there, but they're just like marinating in it all the time.
Yeah.
I like, okay, so I not only just rewatched the movie, I also, somebody's playlist on Apple Music or something reconstructs the soundtrack. And so I went for a run yesterday and was listening to a bunch of the songs from it. And I got to The Fanatic by Felony.
Oh, yeah.
And which I remember because that got like a little bit of airplay on our top 40 station in 1983. But listening to it now,
I am the
I'm
fanatic.
I like the movies on the rock show.
Yeah, totally.
Chasing limousines. Yeah, but listening to it, I was like, oh, this is how we have no doubt.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Like that song is like, you can actually hear it in a few of their songs. There are bits of The Fanatic in like a bunch of early No Doubt. Like there's no Gwen Stefani on The Voice if not for The Fanatic.
Oh, that's hilarious. Well, and also, the station you're talking about, KROQ, yeah, it you could hear it all over the city. It traveled.
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking to Chalky, the funk wizard, who helps me, who is my co-host with the Urga Music War podcast. And, he's younger than me, but he talks about his older sister changing the way she spoke after the Go-Go's album came out, right? Like everyone started inflecting their words differently, which happened in this film as well.
Yeah.
But I think what's great about the film too is that Martha Coolidge, it was done on a shoestring budget, $350,000, but she knew the scene. Like the band at the end of the film, instead of being Josie Cotton, she wanted it to be X, but X were afraid of like alienating their crowd. They were like, oh, I don't know, this may not play well in terms of LA boundaries, which is funny because that's what this film is about. But,
yeah,
she knew the scene, she knew the music, she knew the culture, she lived in the city. And, Francis Ford Coppola was basically trying to help her get a film made, but they couldn't get this rock and roll love story off the ground at Zoetrope because that went bankrupt after One from the Heart.
One from the Heart. Oh, R.I.P. Terry Garr
I know. Oh my God. Yeah.
and Frederick Forrest.
I know. But Frederick Forrest in this film is so awesome, fantastic.
I mean,
But she just called in favors, and the reason why it feels so real is that people brought their own clothes to wear. People did their own makeup. She had, called in a favor of Frederick Elms, who does all the David Lynch stuff and did all, a lot of Jim Jarmusch stuff and Head Over Heels video. Just a really great cinematographer who also gets LA, done Eraserhead and Blue Velvet and things like that. So, I just feel like having the right people around her, she said, allowed her to kind of make this really down and dirty, low budget film that just surprised everyone.
a thing that really struck me this time was how like almost kind of mumblecore it is in certain
Oh
moments.
wow!
Like it's all this like super heavily stylized Valley Girl dialogue, but the way that all of the actors say it is like really conversational, right? And the scene around the table at the mall at the beginning, it's like it's very much like how teenagers talk, as opposed to what it would be in the universe of like Clueless or Legally Blonde or whatever, where it would be like,
Absolutely.
there everyone would it would be a single on everyone on all of their lines, like I'm gonna get puffed out for sure or whatever. But in this world, it's just like they're just talking like the way teenagers talk. Anytime the girls are together, it's just like they're just sort of it's teenage conversation, and it's not like it doesn't exist to be like turned into memes and gifs and shit.
No, it doesn't feel like it's been overworked in the writer's room, and a lot of the
Mhm.
film was improvised. But it really does feel like, I mean, you do have people who are in their 20s playing teenagers, which is it
Sure.
just happens. But
That's the way it goes.
the chemistry between the four Valley girls is really electrifying out of the gate. Were you part of mall culture at all?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
I literally just said for sure. Yeah, but it was. I mean, when you're in the Midwest from age like 13 to 15, um, like until the time that some of your friends start getting driver's licenses, that's where you go.
Right.
That's the only place that you could go and be around people your age. And it'll be like kids from your school, but then kids from other schools. And you just sort of circulate. You just make your way
Right.
around the various floors and food halls and whatever. And sometimes you meet people and sometimes you just stay with your gang. And so, for me, I spend 80% of the time at the mall record store, seeing
Yes.
how
Yeah.
seeing what the world looks like two towns over. Yeah, I was very, yeah, mall culture is me. I am made of Auntie Anne's pretzels.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I mean, Portland, we were, for such a small town, we were just spoiled with so many independent record stores.
Yeah.
So that's where I would just circulate. But if I spent the weekend with my friends, of course, we were going to the mall
Mhm.
and we were circulating.
Mhm.
That's what you did. You're right. It was like a churn.
Yeah.
And you're like, how many times can we pass the Orange Julius?
Mm-hmm.
And when is your parents going to come pick us up?
Yeah.
Because we've done it all.
Yeah. And like maybe you go to a movie and what you
Yeah.
probably do is like buy a ticket for the PG movie and try to sneak into the R movie. Yeah. Yeah, you maybe go to a movie, but basically you just sort of wander and like I don't even remember like trying on clothes or anything. I don't think I was looking for clothes ever. I would sometimes have, enough allowance or lawn mowing money to buy a record and obviously would agonize over that choice because that's $8 to $10 in 1984.
Right. And I remember also, if someone would get the courage to talk to someone else at the mall that was a stranger,
Mhm.
right? Another teenager. That was always a really big deal.
Yeah.
Where someone would just kind of like, all of a sudden they're over there and we're all over here. And
Mhm.
like, are we allowed to go over?
Yeah.
You know,
Oh
it,
yeah. Yeah, I remember there were at the West County Mall in St. Louis, which was kind of my local. It was not the biggest or the coolest, but it was a good mall. And, it was easy for me to get there on a weekend or like a Friday night or whatever. I could bike there in 10 minutes. And I remember I was doing that with some of my friends, and we met some like goth girls in around night. This probably would have been 1984, and they had the berets and like the kind of fringe of curly hair that would go over one eye.
Yes.
And I remember they were into, I forget who they were into at the beginning, but they were into something like spooky that we didn't understand. And then the next time I saw them, I was like, "Do you still like the whatever it was?" And they were like, "No, we're into the Cocteau Twins now."
Right.
Like, very matter of fact. And I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna have to file that away." Yeah,
Genres moved fast. It was like,
yeah.
I'm into this now. I mean, it's so funny on the show, it feels like every time I do an interview, I'm like, no,
Mhm,
really, I was into ska. No,
mhm.
really, I was into Wall of Voodoo. No, really, I was into, like it just, you're leapfrogging because these things
Yeah,
didn't last very long. And sometimes there was such a leap into a different style than anything that had
yeah.
come through the scene before. So you just kind of had to follow it.
We're kind of, I mean, I'm still in that stage now where I'll get real into, like, I'll get real into a band, and that'll, hit me to like, five other things. And I'm that person for a couple of weeks. But now it leaves nothing behind. It leaves no trace. There is no, um, unless I go to see them live and buy a T-shirt. There's not like a CD on my rack, or vinyl or whatever. So it's like things that I was into even like 3 years ago. Sometimes I'll look back on my Apple Music or Spotify, and it's like, oh yeah,
Right.
I was that
Right.
guy for a couple of weeks. You know?
Yeah, you're like, oh, I got to carry these Madness CDs to my next apartment.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah, yeah. It's weird, but yeah, no, those teenage phases do go quick. They go real quick.
Yeah. Well, Nicolas Cage, this was his first lead role. And the first time we really get to see him is coming out of the water,
Mhm.
looking gorgeous.
Mm.
And again, at the time I was like, oh, this is the punker. He looks really just like a hot dude, which he
Mhm.
was. But it's amazing. Martha Coolidge said that she basically, Eric Stoltz was up for it. Judd Nelson was up for it. Such a different film with them in it. Nicolas Cage, this is like watching this film, he's 19. He's so Nicolas Cage already.
Oh my god, yeah.
His, the decisions he makes in it when he improvs, the just weird mannerisms. I could see why people were falling in love with him
Yeah.
in this film already. Like he was a star.
Yeah. He is so startlingly sexy in this movie. Like,
Absolutely.
it's great. It's the eyes. It's all the eyes. It's
Yes.
the heavy eyebrows,
Well, and the triangle chest
and
hair is
the
pretty good
triangle
too.
chest hair. This is just across the board, an extremely hairy bunch of teenagers. The
Yes.
boys. They have full adult chest hair,
Yes.
which set unrealistic expectations for me, I will say. Uh, but yeah, no, there's just something about like these sort of sad, soulful eyes of his,
Yes.
that like, yeah, there's no movie without them, really.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a total puppy dog. You want to
Yeah,
take him home. You want to take care of
yeah,
him. You're like,
absolutely.
yeah, you may be a buffoon, but I love you. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
incredible. And in terms of casting Deborah Foreman as Julie, what do you think of? Do you think she like carries the film as well as he does?
She is so cute. She's like super pretty and like very, very cute. Um, but like, watching it again literally last night, like she is, um, I mean, she is the movie also, but I don't think that she is necessarily his equivalent.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Um, like, really, anytime Elizabeth Daily is on screen, you're looking at Elizabeth Daily.
yeah, absolutely. And if you put E.G. Daily in there, it's like imagine if she got to be Julie. You'd be like, oh, they're kind of at the same level in terms of looks, personality, energy.
Yeah.
And I don't
Yeah.
know if that has to do with like the casting choice or the dialogue, or just Nicolas Cage, just you can't upstage him, right? You know, like
Mm-hmm.
he is going to, your eyes are going to be drawn to him in every scene.
Right.
So it's kind of an unfair comparison. You kind of are going to lose that, you know, that
Yeah,
battle, of carrying screen presence.
totally. But also, she doesn't super lean into the Valley Girl-ishness of it all. Like,
Right.
she doesn't really like, it's not way over the top likes and totallys and tubulars and stuff. Like, she says it, but she doesn't, it's not like a comic performance, right?
Right. No, it's
She's
true. It's
not
pretty
doing like
grounded.
yeah, it's not a Saturday Night Live character. It's like she's sort of, it feels kind of more lived in,
Yeah.
which is good, but also like by definition not showy. So
Right.
so we don't notice her
But probably made
as
it
much.
more relatable to teenagers to be like, oh, I can be this. I am that.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't just, somebody who's, like looks like a star, acts like a star, speaks like a parody. I mean, it's so
Yeah.
funny that, Frank Zappa tried to stop the production of this film because of the song Valley Girl. And you're
Yeah.
like, I could see that happening, like Zappa just being like, all right, we got to block this. I own Valley Girl talk.
Yeah.
It's such a weird lean.
It's crazy. So I just interviewed Moon Zappa, who
Oh, right.
also
Amazing.
lives in the Valley.
Incredible.
Yeah. And really didn't at the time. Like she was in Laurel Canyon. I get maybe technically just over Mulholland into the Valley, but I think she was on the West Hollywood side of the Valley. But certainly went to school with a lot of girls from the Valley, and so would
Right.
do that speak and whatever. Like it is the way that she changed culture
Yes.
by like coming home and doing that impression, and then her dad getting that being like, "Hey, come down to the studio and let's record this thing." First of all, it becomes his only hit song ever.
Absolutely.
It becomes a thing that, for the overwhelming majority of the population that doesn't pay attention to his career, it's the one thing that they know.
Yes.
I mean,
Right.
his fans are super fans, but everyone else is just kind of like, oh, he's the Valley Girl guy or whatever, or they know his mustache or something.
Oh, and that
Um,
pisses those fans off.
oh, of course it does. But it's like the way that Valley Girls speak, it kind of took over culture.
Right.
And still now, that was 82. We're now in 2020. We're now 40 plus years later. If you say to a 12-year-old now, talk like a Valley Girl, a teenager in Cedar Rapids will be able to do it. Like it's, not to say nothing of like record sales or chart positions or whatever, just to have moved culture just a tiny bit. And I don't even really know in which direction Valley Girl culture like pushed the world or whatever, but it is a thing. It is a recognizable thing, right? And it came from like her just having like a good sense of humor and being a good mimic, and just wanting to make her dad laugh. She has a book out now. She has a memoir out now called Earth to Moon that is harrowing. Like
Yes.
I mean, that upbringing was yikes.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
she's great. She's the best.
Yeah. I'm glad to hear that. And I say totally all the time on this,
Oh, of course.
podcast all the time. I'm like, oh, totally. I just, there's things that even I didn't know that I was a Valley Girl, because at the time it was so huge. It was a movement, and it did become a bit of a parody in a way. It was really easy to just be like, why are you speaking like this? But then all of a sudden you're speaking it, and it's not even Valley Girl. It's just language now.
Yeah.
It's, the way that we fill in words and, or, or even the way I say, it's just like, or
Mhm.
like,
I've said
I can't escape it.
1,000 times already since we started talking.
Yes.
Totally. I see here. Okay. My argument is that no one has ever actually said "gag me with a spoon." I feel like that is something that probably somebody said once, or maybe she made it up as part of a larger sort of lexicon or whatever. But it immediately became a parody of something a Valley Girl would say. I don't think
Right.
anyone ever really sincerely said, "Gag me with a spoon."
From this movie, do you think anyone in the world has ever said, God, he's such a total pucoid?
No, for sure. Yeah, that like certain lines are just like, oh boy, yeah, no, that's no.
So you live in LA.
I
Like,
do,
when you
in the
got
Valley.
there, do you see remnants of it? Do you understand what the battle between his world and her world, does that even exist
You know
anymore?
what? It does, and I'll tell you. So,
Wow.
my
Okay.
first 5 years out here, I guess, yeah, about my first 5 years, I lived in like the Miracle Mile area, sort of by LACMA and all that, and the Grove, and the Farmers Market, and um, and so I assumed I would live at the beach. I was like, why even move to LA if you're not going to live on the beach?
Sure.
And I was in a corporate place in Santa Monica for a few months, and it was like, this is miserable because everything I want to do is in West Hollywood or Hollywood, and
Right.
that traffic is a nightmare. And we didn't have anything. We didn't have any such thing as podcasts yet, so there was
Right.
like, and by the time I got here, KROQ was terrible. But we'll come back around to that, I hope. But so it was miserable. So I moved to, I guess it was technically West Hollywood, and that's where my world was, and it's where everything I did professionally was there. And then a friend of mine, this is probably, I've been here for maybe 3 or 4 years, but a friend of mine was in a dinner theater show at Vitello's on Tahunga, famously the place where Robert Blake shot his wife. And it was in the Valley, and I had never had any reason to go to the Valley. I like passed through on the 101 if I was, going up to Napa or something, but I had never stopped in the Valley. And I remember like going over Laurel Canyon, over Mulholland, very much like the helicopter shot at the beginning of Valley Girl.
Yes.
Going over Mulholland and down to Ventura, and not knowing what to expect. I was like, I'm going to the Valley,
Right.
and
Here we go.
yeah, Valley. The Valley where I live is very much like the Queens of LA, right?
Okay.
And I just never, when I lived in New York, I never made it out to Queens, so it was a similar kind of thing.
Right.
And I remember thinking this and then immediately laughing at myself for it. But one of the first things I saw on getting down to Ventura from Laurel Canyon was McDonald's. And I was like, they have McDonald's out here. That makes sense. Of course, and then it was like, yes, of course they have McDonald's. It's not like I have not gone to the high desert. You know what I mean? It's just the Valley. I'm, yeah, I'm 12 minutes from my home.
Yes.
And that McDonald's is now Mendocino Farms, but it's right next to what was the Dupars from Valley Girl, which is now a Sephora.
Right. No, I love
Yeah.
the scene when he takes Julie through Hollywood.
Yeah.
And you get to see on the marquees what's playing, what movies, and he's
Yeah.
calling out to different people. Like, supposedly he improv'd that in the car, of course, but they shot the reaction stuff separately and just edited it together really
Yeah.
beautifully. It really does
Yeah.
feel like a call and response. But I will tell you this, as part of my research, they did remake this film, and oh God, it's a jukebox musical. It's horrible.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I'm aware that it exists.
Yeah, and oh God, who's in it? What's his name?
Isn't it Logan Paul or something?
Yeah, exactly. And the weirdest thing in the film, they use that footage of the people on the street. They cut it into the new scene of them yelling at people as they go down, which I thought was cool, but it was also really a bummer, kind of. It was like,
Yeah.
oh, you can't take a good film and put it in your shitty remake to save this. But it was really wild. I was like, oh, there's the kids running alongside. There's the punk rock goth kid on the corner.
Mm-hmm.
Again, they were probably like an inspired tribute.
Yeah. Where's the effort for the rest of the movie, which I have not seen, but I already don't like.
No, it's horrible.
Yeah.
And again, they just break into song. And, oh my God, if I was 15 watching that film and thinking it was a punk rock thing, my head would have exploded even more than it did, because it's just, just gross.
I heard about it, and I said, barf out.
I want to talk about Frederick Forrest and Colleen Camp as Julie's parents
Yeah.
because, again, 80s films always had the parents who were clueless or, hypersexualized and trying to, bed another kid or whatever, just all that weird
Yeah.
80s tropes. But I love what they do in this film. I think it's just really honest and sweet. And the fact
Yeah.
that they had been in films together already and
They
kind of knew
had?
how to, yeah, they were in Apocalypse Now together.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I've never
And
seen that movie.
well, it's not going to be part of this series. I'm sorry, that's not a music film, but even though there's music in it. But I just love that he's wearing that tight yellow shirt with the health food on it. She's carrying a compost jar through. I mean, I don't even think I'd seen a compost jar until this film.
No. And it's, now, like at the time, when I first saw it, when I was, I guess, 12, the idea of them sort of being former hippies and like, the significance of a Valley Health store.
Yeah.
None of that like registered for me at all. Now it's like, oh, I know exactly who these people are.
Yes.
I know exactly where that store is.
They're real.
They're absolutely real people. That's funny that they were in movies together because we said this last night. Like the scene where Julie and what's even his name? The old boyfriend.
Oh my God.
What's his name? Tommy.
Tommy. Thank you. I was going
Tommy.
E. I know it ended with okay.
Tommy.
Yeah.
Julie and Tommy are going to the prom, and the dad gets high in the laundry room or whatever, and then they're just sort of like, she's like, "Hey, do you have any of that stuff for me?" What we literally said was like, did they meet each other 5 minutes before the camera started rolling?
Oh, that's
There's just
so
something
funny.
awkward about their like physicality with each other. Maybe it was a choice.
Yeah, I think it's just they're probably like, we're gonna just roll the film, let's capture what we get, let's improv through this. There is a definite like disconnect in that scene where like it goes on a little too long for two people who seem to be on different pages. It's really weird, but
it is weird.
There's something that Martha Coolidge must have been like, as just capturing it and seeing what the other takes were, and them as actors was like, this one's for me. Because it does feel like it slows the film down.
Yeah.
Like, and it's just, we're spending time with the parents. But up to that moment, I do feel like, the scene in the restaurant, or I mean, they have the little cafe, right? And the stuff at home, them laying down the law with curfew, which was such a big deal to us as kids in the 80s. Like,
oh yeah,
when are you going to be back? How much can I push it? Like, no, the show's not going to be done till like 12:30. I'll be home by 2. Is that good? Like, that whole dynamic is really well captured in this film.
But them not wanting to, stifle her personal development by putting any rules around her. Frederick Forrest in this is a rare case of somebody actually being older than I thought he was. Like, usually in the 70s and 80s, the thing that like trips me out the most is like in season 1 of the Mary Tyler Moore Show, Ed Asner as Lou Grant is 38.
Yeah, mind-blowing.
Which it's unbelievably mind-blowing. And, obviously, you look at the Traveling Wilburys and you see their ages, and like, I think
they're young.
Only Roy Orbison is over 50, and he's like 51. But Frederick Forrest was like 46.
Yeah.
I was like, all right. He held together well. And 46 is not old, but, at that time it was.
And Colleen, who plays the mom, is only 9 years older than Julie, right? You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's just Hollywood logic. It's like, who can we get? Who's the best? And you just kind of like, we have old teenagers here and we have young parents. But it is interesting. Yeah, he is the age he should be in the film, which is really rare.
It is really rare. Yeah, and it looks good. Health food works, man.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. He's
all this stuff that tastes like nothing's supposed to be good for you. Well, guess what? It's good for you.
He's ripped. It's like,
yeah.
The clothing in the film. Did you ever dress like anyone in this film?
I dressed like everyone in the Valley Party scene.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. And did you
Yeah,
dance like them too?
I bet I did.
Yeah. So you pop the collar.
I've popped a collar.
Okay. Handkerchief
Yeah.
around the neck.
Handkerchief, no. Handkerchief,
Okay.
no. Bandana, no.
Yeah.
Um,
It's a weird mesh of people. So I wanted to get
yeah.
through and see which,
Th-
but like
yeah.
probably the polka dot shirt or some sort of new
No,
way.
no polka dot shirt, but
Okay.
like Oxford button down tucked into plaid, like Madras plaid Bermuda type shorts. And deck shoes, boat shoes, loafers.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
wrote here lots of tucked in shirts.
Lots of tucked in shirts.
It's tight. People are
Yeah.
tight and they look good. Like everyone
Yeah.
is
Everybody
immaculate,
looks
you know?
good.
Yeah.
Brad, the guy who they sort of check out at the mall. First of all, like, I don't know what we did about with pants since Valley Girl, like since the 80s. But I don't like it's the way that these, like Tommy at the beginning of the movie and Brad, like they're in these sort of corduroys and their asses are like magnificent. And I think it's the cut of the pant. Uh, I don't think butts were different 40 years ago. I think pants were different, but I don't know what it is that we did. But it's
Well,
uh,
but you had stores like the Jean Machine and things that were like really, I think, tailored to, we're getting out of the
butt centric.
yeah, exactly. And
Okay.
I do remember, yeah, it seemed like butts were really important.
Yeah, butts were a
and
big deal.
yeah,
Butts were a big deal. Butts are always a big deal. But it's just
there's our pull quote.
yeah. Um, but Brad later at the party has this sort of like color blocked, sort of windbreakery thing on,
Yes,
which is exactly what Topo Designs does now. I
right.
don't know. Like I'm a huge like brand nerd for Topo Designs.
Got
They
it.
do a more muted sort of, something you would wear on a hike, but that is a brighter, more pastel Topo Designs windbreaker that I would buy today.
Yeah, and I love that, at the dance party, you just picture them making it. They can't play the music as the kids dance, but they have to dance in unison in silence so that they can capture the dialogue of the people in the scene. And it's one of my favorite things is just seeing people dance in the void in a movie.
Yeah.
I
that's
love it
always
because
fun.
now they can, put something in their ears and they could, like it could be hidden, but through Bluetooth technology. But back then it was like, all right, everybody, the tempo is going to be kind of like this. All right, just in, like if we can keep everyone just, it's magical. But
It is.
for this film, I think they do pull off the energy of a teenage party better than a lot of them.
Yeah, I agree. And it, it is always awkward when you can tell the people are dancing to nothing. But another thing that is always awkward is teenage parties. So
Right.
it kind of, in that way, it really, really works. I always loved that it was, I mean, not super racially mixed, but like racially mixed. Tommy, like the first person he flirts with is this like Black Valley girl.
Right.
And which is like, I even at the time, I was like, cool. LA's cool, and the adults are making sushi.
Right. I never got that.
No, I've still never seen that. You don't do that.
No.
Especially uni. They're making uni. You don't do that.
Well, I wanted to ask you about something you mentioned earlier because I want to talk about the music in this film. This is a very KROQ centric film of the time. You said KROQ sucks now. What happened? Right. And like I don't know much about. I know they're really important and they broke a lot of really unique, strange music and they took chances. Yeah. But what's changed there now?
Well, okay. So right around the time I became aware of Valley Girl, I also became aware of KROQ. And probably that's how I became aware of KROQ, even though I don't know that they ever say it in the movie that it's KROQ. But again, like going to the newsstand and reading Billboard, I was aware that there was a rock station in LA that played cool music, and it's what all the kids listen to, and that's why, like, California is a whole different world. And and it was, in 1983, it was exactly what you heard. It was the Psychedelic Furs and probably Sparks um
Simple
like
Minds.
simple, yeah, slightly left of center stuff.
Mhm.
It's where you would hear REM for the first time, or the Smiths, or
Well, it's
whatever.
where Martha Coolidge heard modern English. She heard it on
Oh,
KROQ and
wow.
then had to figure out what this song was.
Yeah.
So it proves right there.
Oh my God. See, never knew that. But yeah, it's where you would hear, like, just cool music that was, that was not in the mainstream, but that also wasn't so weird that it was stuff that, like, if you knew about it, you fell in love with it immediately, and you could play it for a friend and they would fall in love with it immediately, and then you
Right.
would have this secret thing, right?
Right.
So K-Rock was like where that existed. And it was, I forget the name of the program director, but it was him. It was Rodney Bingenheimer. It was, people who, like, really loved music and really cared about radio, and created this thing that like we sort of called college rock. Maybe we weren't really saying alternative at the time.
It was college
Um,
rock. Yeah.
yeah,
Alternative was not a
yeah,
thing. Yeah.
no. Um, and then it was like, so that thing could kind of exist on the fringes. If you were, if you were 12 in 1983, by the time you were 13, you would maybe do the drama club at your high school.
Yes,
And, like, the kids in the
absolutely.
drama club for sure knew music that was from K-Rock, your Echo and the Bunnymen and your Cure and Depeche
Right.
Mode and all that kind of thing. So it was just like, it created that kind of indie sort of world that existed off to the side, which slowly began to take over, right? And then there were commercial radio formats for that, like, took off around the world, around the country, and then Nirvana happened, and all of commercial rock radio changed. And at around that time, I think K-Rock sort of didn't know what the alternative to the alternative was. So when what had been the alternative became the mainstream,
Right.
they kind of, like the way they say, like, a person's personality gets frozen the year they become famous.
Mm.
Like, child stars tend to stay, whatever. I feel like K-Rock, their aesthetic took over the world, and they were like, all right, now we just stay here.
Oh, got it.
Um,
Okay. Right.
so, but
So it's
not even
very
really, because,
dated.
yeah. They don't really play a whole lot of, like, Echo and the Bunnymen and stuff like that anymore. It's
Right.
now all Red Hot Chili Peppers and Sublime
Right.
and stuff like that. They've just, like, stayed. Like, if you turn on K-Rock now, you will hear Santeria within 20 minutes, guaranteed. And so it's just been that for a long time.
Right.
And it's a bummer because, being in California, you want to have a cool radio station to turn on that nobody else has. And I guess we have KCRW. For a minute in the mid-aughts, we had Indie 103, which was absolutely the K-Rock of its time.
Okay. Never heard of that.
That played a lot of, oh shit, it was so good. It lasted maybe 2 years. It was too good to survive.
Yeah.
It was like, your Killers and Franz Ferdinand and the Strokes and that kind, like, that moment.
Right.
Henry Rollins had a show there. It's where Jonesy's Jukebox, Steve Jones from the Sex Pistols.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's where that started.
Right. Well, it's funny. I wanted to ask you about this. When they are taking Julie to the club, her first, live music club, did you expect to see the Plimsouls inside playing Million Miles Away? Because it's a great song to kind of frame their discussion and kind of, it's not super rambunctious, but I was really surprised. I kind of thought maybe I'd be seeing, like, the Circle Jerks or Fear or something weird, like there's something that I was like, oh, it's like kind of a, chimey power pop band that people are dancing like they do in the Valley. It wasn't that, and maybe that was the point, but
it wasn't that different. It
Yeah.
wasn't that different.
Yeah.
But I like that. I like that for Randy. Like, I like that he would be a power pop guy and
yeah, it is.
sort of
It's cool.
guy. But yeah, it was kind of, to be honest, when I was 12, it was kind of all the same. I mean, obviously, if it had been Fear, the scene would have hit very, very different. But like
Absolutely.
the Plimsouls were as left of center to me as Fear would have been in a different way, but like as outside of my circle. Um, Although my oldest brother did have the album Everywhere at Once, and I sure did steal it and tape it. Um, like, yeah, actually, it's Everywhere at Once is playing when they show up, which
Oh,
is
right.
like
Million Mile.
a classic.
Right. That's the other
And
song comes in later.
and Oldest Story in the World later when he's having the crisis. It's like their music is perfect for this.
Yeah.
Um, what was crazy? Okay, so I had to look all this up. The external of that club is I forget the name of it, but when I first moved to LA, I saw Rilo Kiley there when they were first starting to do shows.
Oh, wow. So it's
Uh,
okay.
well, yeah, I mean it was like a smallish bar.
Okay.
And I forget what the name of it was, but I've been to like 1,000 birthday parties there, and now it's I'm sure it's a Linens and Things or something, but it was a cool club. But the inside um, was Club Central, which did not exist when I moved here, but is now the Viper Room.
Oh,
So
wow.
where the Plimsouls are playing is the Viper Room.
Well, what was the first club show you went to that you walked through the doors and saw live music in a smaller venue?
Ooh, okay, can I tell you? It might have been Tommy Keene.
Oh my God.
Yeah, because my oldest brother, the guy who had the Plimsouls album, who now has a preset button for Fox News in his car, it breaks my heart. And if it's music, it's Toby Keith or some kind of shit. But
Wow.
uh, he, I mean, he knew how much I loved Tommy Keene. He did not know him himself, but I was like in 1986 when Songs from the Film came out, and then the Run Now EP. Um, I was like all about it. And this girl from a girls' school that I knew, Kim Winkler, she was real into him too. And we found out that he was playing at Mississippi Nights in St. Louis, which was like the rock club on Laclede's Landing. And it was an all ages show. So he drove us down. We were both 15, and he went to the 21 and up section, and we were
Uh-huh.
the only people in the under 21 section. And yeah, it was Tommy Keene at Mississippi Nights.
Oh, that's amazing. What was there
Yeah,
an all ages scene in St. Louis, or was that a
there
rarity?
probably was, but it would have been, honestly, it would have been the Randys, and I was very much in a Julie space.
Right. Sure. No, I
So
got.
the worlds did not mix. I do remember once there was a rumor that Agent Orange was going to play at a VFW hall in like downtown St. Louis.
Oh, that's such a good sentence.
Yeah.
It's
And
classic.
so I went with the other guy from my high school who liked Agent Orange, because this was my Agent Orange month. And we went down there and we stood in the parking lot with a bunch of punk rock kids from like public schools in the area who we were a little bit afraid of. And Agent Orange never did show up, but it was one of these things. And I remember being like, oh shit, there is a scene. Like there's
Right.
my Cocteau Twins girls are probably a part of this somehow. But like all the kids, must light up the telephone lines and share information that they might have heard from some 10-watt station somewhere.
There's a lot of heartbreak in this film. Randy and Julie have their split up, and then you have the fantastic montage scene of Randy trying to win her back. But are there certain moments in this movie that you just feel like are exquisite and just your favorite?
Always stuck out because I didn't understand it. And then the last time I watched it, I was like, oh, this is perfect because I don't understand it and because it is not to be understood.
Uh,
It is uh, the scene between the stepmom and Skip when he comes by with the grocery delivery.
yes.
And like she is very clumsily trying to flirt with him, and he does not know how to flirt back. And I remember thinking at the time, because it's like plastic, like there are like little moments from it that as a 13-year-old, I was like, I don't I don't understand this at all, but when I'm an adult, I will. And what I understand now as an adult is that it is perfect because it is uncomfortable, because neither person knows what to do.
Yes.
Um,
Trapped.
and yeah, and then it's later seen with the Eaten by the Monster of Love where Skip shows up, and you don't, as the viewer, know who he is, gonna like walk in on in the shower and later have sex with. Like that remains like really like um suspenseful.
No, it's a weird B story, C story even, that
Yeah.
like you could take out of the film and it would just still be Valley Girl.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that they felt like, again, she said she was getting notes. Remember, this is rated R. And I do feel
Hmm.
like this was a reaction to it because you're talking about an era of very horny, teen driven rated R films. And,
Yeah.
so the pressure to make a Porky's versus a Valley Girl was really big on her.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's indelible. And then uh also the bathroom scene where he sneaks through and like puts himself in the walk-in shower,
That's my favorite.
and it is really great. Um I love that she resisted the urge to have like, poo poo noises and stuff, like, because certainly he sat through a lot of, people actually going to the bathroom,
Yes. Yes.
which we would, and she allows us to not have to think about that. And I almost feel bad for taking it there, but I feel like any other movie, it would be, a long scene of like poo poo noises.
Yeah, it's the 80s. Yeah, you gross out but I just love, I mean, we've all been at a party that we can't escape,
Uh-huh.
and he the improvisation he does in that shower where
Yeah.
he silently screams while shooting his fingers as a gun
Yeah.
is just like,
Incredible.
I remember that was the moment in the film where I was like,
Unforgettable.
oh, I really love this character. This person is like, I get it. They're like,
Yeah.
they really are trapped and they feel like they've already been kicked out. They've crawled through the
Uh-huh.
window and they're
Yeah.
stuck again and they're patiently waiting.
But then they finally speak, and he is like, let's get out of here. And just unblinkingly, she's like, go where? I don't know. To do what? I don't care. Like it is so sexy. It is so sexy. I would go anywhere with that guy.
It's just so obvious why people were just in love with Nicolas Cage. And it's
Yeah.
a film that I feel like when people talk about Nicolas Cage and his offbeat performances, but just how good he is, I feel like this film rarely comes up.
No. I mean, okay. So there is a moment, and I don't know when it is, but there's a moment when he stops being this like puppy dog-eyed sexy young boy and becomes just like a great big weirdo. And I don't know what exact movie that is. It's after Raising Arizona, probably, but around that time. But like at this time there's this and there's Birdie, and it's like he's you kind of want him to be a sort of a romantic lead, right? Because he
Sure.
is so like quirky and sexy. But yeah, now it's like I can't imagine him doing a sexy role now.
He might surprise us. It would be
Maybe. I mean, he does nothing but
amazing,
surprise us.
like if all of a sudden, you know what? We need to write the film. We need to write the film that
Maybe.
brings the sex back to Nicolas Cage because
Maybe.
he's still an interesting looking guy. He's still got the eyes, and that's
Yeah.
it. That's all he needs is a he can. I'm
I,
sure he can bring those eyes back.
yeah. It would work. It would work.
He needs a break from all the murdering and blood and stuff.
Yeah.
He's been very bloody in the last
Yeah.
20 years.
Very bloody.
What do you think about where the film ends up, like with the prom, the
Yeah.
fight, the food fight, the escape
Yeah.
away? Is that satisfying to you?
Uh, I mean, I would like a happier ending for Fred and Stacy.
Yeah.
I would like a moment. Um, I you know, speaking of indelible performances, the teacher who presents the king and the queen. Uh, I think not. She's like, she fucking lights up the screen. I
That's
love her.
supposedly like a really quotable, like people have memorized that speech. You know,
It's
what is it
incredible.
about? Is it about the nicest clothes? I think not.
Yeah, I
Is it
think not.
about who's dating the captain of the football team or who's seeing the head cheerleader? I don't think so. And it's just like, yeah, the adult having their moment to connect with teenagers.
Yeah, it's a perfect performance. She has like 3 lines, and it's one of the top 5 things that I remember about the movie. So there is that. But yeah, then they just kind of leave and take off in the limo, um, and it it almost wants to go the Graduate kind of way.
Absolutely. It almost wants to. And you're kind of scared. If you haven't seen The Graduate, you don't have any
Mhm.
context, right?
Right.
You know, as an adult seeing The Graduate and seeing this film again, I'd kind of forgotten just kind of the silence between them.
Yeah. Well, Valley Girl is one of those things that I've revisited every few years throughout my life. And seeing it as a 12 or 13-year-old, I was just like, oh, they're leaving the prom and they're together now, and now they're going to go to somewhere else. Right. Like they're going to,
Yeah.
there's another party somewhere, they're going to go see a band or something. And it wasn't until I was probably a teenager that I was like, oh, no, they're going to have sex.
Yeah. They're
That's the
going
whole
to a
thing.
hotel.
They're going to the hotel, and he knows what's about to happen, and it's going to seal the deal forever.
Yeah.
Like, oh, they're going to fuck.
Yes.
That's what's going on.
Yes.
What more do you need to say? Sorry.
Well, true. But I got to talk about Josie Cotton and the Party Crashers
Ooh.
because the reason I mentioned Fear earlier, I never was into Fear. It felt like bully rock. Like
Mhm.
it felt mean spirited and, you know, it was, you know, very homophobic and very aggressive. But I had no idea that the song, you know, Johnny, Are You Queer was originally written by Fear.
I didn't know that. I'm finding that out now.
Yes. So the managers of the Go-Go's at the time reworked the song that Fear had called Fetch Me One More Beer. And
What?
they wrote new lyrics and gave it back to the band. And then they just basically gave it to Josie Cotton, right?
Mhm.
When Fear found out that the song was popular, like I'm sure it was being played in KROQ all the time and things like that, they basically had to get together and discuss the publishing rights to the song. They did a coin toss. Fear lost. Publishing went to the other folks. And Giza X produced it, who did like Dead Kennedys and, you know,
Uh-huh.
all these other, you know, iconic records. But yeah, it's really weird to be like, there is kind of a punk rock element to this film that I didn't
Yeah.
know till, you know, like doing research and listening to commentaries and things like that. It's weird.
Wow. Yeah, that is brand new information to me,
Yes,
and I'm finding it difficult to take in.
I know.
Um,
Fear and
and I'm
Josie
still,
Cotton,
yeah,
but
I'm
it's so
still,
LA.
yeah, I'm still sort of reeling from X maybe being the prom band,
Could you
because I have no
imagine?
idea what they bring to a prom context. You know?
Well, except they look hot. Like
Yo, sure.
that, I mean, John Doe, Exene, Billy. I mean,
Yeah.
it definitely, and it probably would have brought in a different audience who was maybe too old to see this film. Like we were
Uh-huh.
younger when this film came out. We hadn't,
Yeah.
I didn't seen X yet. You know, it was
Yeah.
like they were playing bars. You know, um, so I think it would have maybe gave it more of a real look, like kind of the Plimsouls club scene where you're like, okay, I'm seeing the inside of a venue. This isn't fake. This is the real room looks like.
Yeah.
Where the Josie Cotton stuff is definitely like, this is movie making. You know, it's like very stylized performance. You know, and so like 80s party kids teenage film.
Totally. Yeah. I can see them listening to her. I bought the Josie Cotton convertible music album shortly because there was no soundtrack to buy, which, uh, is the result of, contractual issues or whatever. But there was, yeah, you had to kind of piece together the soundtrack. But I, so Johnny, Are You Queer is like, you know, It's an interesting case, that song, because it really rides the line of being problematic, right?
Absolutely.
Which, again, not a word we would have used in the moment, but there's something about the way the song is sung and performed, even with the limp wrist thing, where it's like it somehow doesn't feel homophobic. It could very easily become incredibly homophobic, but there's almost something like a feeling that maybe I'm projecting onto it, that it's like, it's cool if you are, but I just want to know because because we're maybe dating, but it's not like, Johnny, are you queer so I can make fun of you or beat you up or whatever.
No, I don't think so
It's
either.
like,
It's way
yeah,
more inside, you know what I
yeah,
mean? Like, and this person knows queer people, right?
yeah,
It's not like,
exactly.
this
Totally.
is not like, oh, I'm totally mystified.
Yeah.
And the music video for this, the listeners should try to find
Hmm.
this video online. It's like one camera take of her sitting next to a guy with like broken, you know, black rimmed glasses with tape on it, like nerd,
Oh,
right?
no.
And
Oh,
she
okay.
sings
Yeah.
to him the entire time. One take, one camera take. This
Ooh.
was the era of like Blotto. You know what I mean? You did not have money for music videos yet. It was if you were in the underground.
I might have known we'd get to Blotto.
You're an MTV person. I had to drop Blotto. I mean,
Blotto.
yeah, yeah,
Another album, or I guess EP, that my oldest brother had, because of course I Want to Be a Lifeguard was
yeah,
huge.
yeah. Because of
And
MTV. Isn't that amazing?
yeah,
Like
well,
a
I
new
don't think
wave.
they even had MTV. This might have been pre MTV, or pre them getting it, but whatever. Yeah, these things got disseminated.
When the first month of MTV, it was on all the time because along
Hmm.
with fish heads and
Sure.
whatever they could throw on, Message to You, Rudy by specials, just
Yeah.
like we just got to throw all this
Yeah.
stiff record stuff on and
Get it on.
get it
Yeah.
on. We got to fill 24 hours. But it is amazing that like some new wave humor bar band like your brother could go get that
Mhm.
record and just be
Yeah,
like,
because it was, you had to play "I Want to Be a Lifeguard" at a party in the the rec room or whatever at the dorm. But yeah, I remember I listened to that EP a lot, and I'm the only person I'm sure who listened to the other four songs on that EP. But I was like 11 or 12. I didn't know better.
that's the greatest part of being 12. That's the
Yeah.
great part of being 12. Making those mistakes. Like in this film, I kind of wanted to buy a Paola's record because Eyes of a
Hmm.
Stranger was kind
What
of
a
a
jam.
cool song,
Yeah.
but I just couldn't make the leap, right? I'd look at the record and there was something I was suspicious of it.
Yeah.
Maybe
It's
it looked,
Canadian.
I know. And Bob Rock, did
Yeah.
you know that? That's
Oh
so
yeah.
weird. The producer of Metallica and stuff, he's in this new wave Canadian band. But that's a
Yeah.
great song. But that was also the power of like radio and things like that, where you just the song one song could often be enough.
Yeah. The one that I could not track down for the life of me, because trying to assemble the Valley Girl soundtrack was like a thing that if you were an alternative kid in 1983 to 6, you would try to do, because the soundtrack never came out. And so, most of the stuff you could find, but I love you by Pat Travers, which is what's playing as they like descend, as they go down Vine into Hollywood. Sorry about my dog. But like that song, and I still don't know anything about Pat Travers.
Yeah, I don't think they were a new wave unit.
No,
I mean,
no.
anything that just said the person's name and band
Uh,
often was like, no, that's not.
yeah,
you're not the Revolting Cocks. You're
no.
not. Like
We're in a Robin Trower space.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But I do feel like that is often what's great about film soundtracks, though, is especially in this era, they were very confused. Like,
Hmm.
I remember going to see Bachelor Party because the Fleshtones and REM had songs in it. The
Right.
most un-IRS film ever, IRS Records film ever,
Hmm. Hmm.
but it had IRS bands in it and they put the soundtrack out. So, of course, I got to see it. Going to see
Yeah.
Dr. Detroit because James Brown and Devo are in it and being
Right.
like, this is no connection to the film at all.
Yeah, what the
They're
hell is
just
going
grabbing
on?
things,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
There was probably a point where they're like, we only have so much money, we have so much time.
Yeah.
Maybe this Pat Travers band, it feels kind of good. There's not going to be a soundtrack. But I just
Right.
love the confusion of so many of these records, like heavy metal, the soundtrack album for that. You're like, Devo and Cheap Trick. And then you're like, Blue Oyster Cult. And then it just starts getting sluggish
It's
and
so
weird.
strange. Yeah, but the synth tone in that Pat Travers song is perfect.
Yes.
It's like, it really actually feels like a song that you would listen to in Hollywood at that time of night. I don't know why. The soundtrack issue also, for the young mind, creates like sort of a dissonance. Like, I don't know if maybe it is Bachelor Party. I forget what soundtrack Are You Ready for the Sex Girls is on. Do you know the song that I'm talking about?
I don't know if I do.
Are you ready for the sex girls? Anyway, it's but it was on a very new wave heavy soundtrack.
Right. Okay.
And I can't even remember the name of the artist. But in my head I was like, oh, this must be a cool new wave band to listen to.
Right.
And it's like, they probably weren't. They were probably like the guys who did Pac-Man Fever. But they just like did sort of a horny sounding song that got picked up and put in a better context,
Oh, you know what it was? I figured it out.
What?
I looked it up. So it was a band called the Gleaming Spheres.
There you go.
And the film, which is, another heartbreaking film, Last American Virgin.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Which again is very musically confused if you look at that soundtrack.
Yeah. But you put them in there and it's like they're in a good neighborhood.
Right.
Their home value goes
That's
up.
right. That's right.
Yeah. Instead of being where they are, which is, probably, it like in the novelty record space. What was Human Sexual Response? Because that was a who were they? That's an album cover I used to always see.
Well, there were certain bands, Flash in the Pan, Human Sexual Response,
Yes.
Fabulous Poodles.
Thank you.
There were ones that, again, my radar was going off. I was like, I feel like this might be a bit of a fake out. Like the name is coming in a little too quirky to justify. Like Fabulous Poodles, you're like, that's like the most new wave UK thing ever.
Yeah.
But I just couldn't get past it. And then I listened to it. I'm like, yeah, you were right. It's not awesome.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It was easy to like do the signifiers and be thought of as like new wave.
And they were right with Melt With You. I mean, it's the perfect song for the movie.
Sure.
And like, I just love that, Martha Coolidge just heard it on KROQ and was like, I want it in the film. And it blew up. This film, made modern English get to listeners.
It's so funny to me now that looking back, that's a hit song.
Yeah.
If it's 80s flashback weekend on the mainstream radio station, you're going to hear it a dozen times. But it was not a hit song.
No, they were a weird band before then too.
Yeah. And like in 1983, 84, if you liked it, that meant you were kind of a weird kid.
Right.
But now it's like, now we have this revisionist look at the 80s and it's like, oh yeah, no, that was, we were, in our Dayglow Forenza sweater listening to Cyndi Lauper in modern English. No, we weren't. Well, I was. But
yeah. All those festivals that happen now, they're like kind of like eighth in it, like Blondie is above them, Devo.
Yes.
Then, but they're above Oingo Boingo. But like, it's so funny to see them still in the mix.
It's wild. And they're also, I think they're starting to kind of fuck with us with some of this stuff. Because there was a freestyle festival in LA over the summer. And we didn't go because it was it was right in the middle of the heat wave and it was like 115 degrees. But it was, Stevie B and the Cover Girls and, Company B. But then in the middle of the lineup, there was just Connie.
What's Connie?
Connie. And she has like one song, I forget what it is.
Right.
And like I didn't really remember it, but it sounds like every other song. But I was like, what if it isn't? Like, what if it's just they're just trying to sneak a Connie?
Yeah, they're like, Somebody's
you
aunt
know?
is like, "Hey,
Yeah,
it's my turn.
yeah,
It's my time,
totally.
and I helped produce this damn event. You're gonna put my
Yeah,
aunt in it. Let's go. Let's
yeah.
go. Give her."
Are you going to tell me that my Aunt Connie wasn't a freestyle superstar for 20 minutes in 1988? I mean, it's, we have the whole internet at our disposal now, but nobody's going to
Oh
check still.
God.
Get Connie in there. One thing, one thing that really jumped out with this last viewing, especially now that I live in the Valley, is the opening helicopter shot. Now, as a 12 or 13-year-old, I just, I saw the Hollywood
Yeah.
sign, and then it was like, here's some, and it was just like California. All I saw was like, oh, this is California. And now I live in the Valley. So it's the radio announcers on those first several viewings, that was just white noise to me to like set the scene, to put us in Los Angeles, right? But this time around, it was like there's one radio station that we're listening to, and it's 72 degrees, and then it changes as we go over into the Valley, and it's a different DJ, and it's 84 degrees. That's very important
Okay.
because it's always like 12 degrees warmer in the Valley. This is not a thing that I picked up on at all. But like as the camera sort of pans across the Valley, all I could think, and in fact, my partner said it out loud. He was like, "We could buy a house there." Like 'cause there's nothing. It's so empty compared to what it is now. There
Right.
are no tall buildings.
Right.
Like
Wow.
even Forest Lawn, like cemetery, it's like no one's buried there yet. It's like they're. It just seems so wide open. Now it's like so heavily built up.
It was funny. The last time I was in LA, it was the first time that I was kind of there and could really appreciate the spatialness of it. I've always had
Mhm.
to go in, set up, play, stay at someone's
Sure.
house at 2 in the morning in some other part, and leave. But
Right.
I got to spend a chunk of time there and really feel like, oh, I get why so many of these bands existed with this kind of light and heat
Hmm.
and architecture and traffic. And I felt the surrealness of being like, I didn't know UCLA was that close to Beverly Hills. That's weird. Like, what
Yeah.
would it be like to be okay? And then all of a sudden, I'm over here and at Hollywood. It's like everything just flows in such an abstract way, where
Yeah.
you all of a sudden you do go over a hill and you're down in the valley.
Yeah. It's very. This is the thing. So the Dodgers just won the World Series, right? And uh, anytime the Dodgers win a game, they play "I Love LA." You do the LA Marathon just before the cannon goes off. They play "I Love LA,"
Right.
and it's like nobody's paying attention to the lyrics of that song, right? Because it's all about how vapid and insincere Los Angeles is,
Right.
and like there are little hints of it, but then it's like the Victory Boulevard, we love it. That bit in the bridge
Yeah.
is like all of those are like long avenues where it's like mansions, and then 5 minutes later, like lock the doors
Hmm.
because it's full urban decay, and then mansions again.
Right.
Like it's all like all of those places, all of the streets that he calls out are like incredible wealth and also unbelievable decay and violence, especially at the time that the song came out. It's like it's a very like subtle joke about LA that nobody gets, and that like that they keep not getting and proving the premise of the joke
Right.
over and over and over again.
It's like the people singing "The One I Love" to each other, like
Hmm.
REM in the documentary,
Yeah.
saying, "We look out and there's a couple singing that to each other, and we're like, oh, you haven't
Yeah.
really listened to the
No.
lyrics. Like, you
No.
just hear the one I love, and that's it." It's like,
Right. I think people read titles and then
yes.
don't really go too far beyond that.
Oh, Dave, this has been brilliant. I really
Oh my
appreciate
God,
it.
thank you.
I at the end of every episode, I ask the same question, but I tailor it depending on what we're talking about.
Hmm.
On a scale from 11 p.m. being the lowest to 4 a.m. being the highest, what curfew do you give the film Valley Girl, with 11 p.m. being the lowest and 4 a.m. being the highest?
Wow. I mean, I love it, so I don't want it out especially in Hollywood, past 11. But I trust Randy. Randy is clued in.
Absolutely.
He knows the people. He yells vague things at people on street corners.
They seem to know him.
They seem to know him back. Yeah, you know what? Only because Randy is stalwart and trustworthy, I would say 4 a.m.
That's what I have written down here, 4 a.m. That is exactly the time. And maybe even 4:30, let's face it.
I mean,
it's summer, right?
Yeah.
So, Thank you again so much, Dave. It was brilliant.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you for listening to Revolutions Per Movie. We release new episodes every Thursday on your favorite podcast app and additional bonus episodes every Sunday on our Patreon. The show is a completely independent affair, so the best way to support the show is through our Patreon at patreon.com/revolutionspermovie, where you can get weekly bonus episodes and shows, exclusive limited edition flexi discs and records and CDs featuring guests that have appeared on the show, and other exclusive goods sent to you just for joining. You can follow us on social media at Revolutions Per Movie and also find out more information about our various guests in the episode show notes. Thanks again, and we'll see you next week. Bye!